A presentation where things are going to go crashing into Earth, right? And this month I'm doing Temecula disasters. And next month at the public library I'm doing murders and ghosts of Temecula. So, yeah, I know. I'm that guy. So let me see if I can turn this on. And looks like we're ready. So, they say, I don't like to stand up here and just talk. Instead, I like to narrate a PowerPoint show because I think there's much more to see when you look at the slides and pictures and stuff. Because it's so much more important to see what our past looked like and to see what our present looks like as well. Now, hang on a second, let me take this off. How's that sound? Any better? Okay. So, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So we're just going to get right into it. Save the questions until last because based on 1,000 words per picture, I have about 2.5 million words, okay? So, Temecula disasters. What's a disaster? Natural disasters. We have natural disasters and human caused disasters or any sudden event that causes great damage or great misfortune or calamity. And so I wanted you to get an idea of what Temecula looked like in the past. So this is Temecula, 1909. It's west looking east. So one of the interesting things here is you can see the railway station is no longer here, the Hotel Temecula. This is the livery stable where the bank is now. And then over here would be Interstate 15, right there. The City Hall would be right there. In 1920, this is a great color photo. I think it was taken by a motion picture production company. They're scouting out here for doing movies. And again, you can see, let's see, I think that's the Hotel Temecula right there. So good. 1979. Okay, Interstate 15, you can clearly see right here. There's Front Street, there's Santiago Bridge, there's the Main Street Bridge, is Rancho California right there. And you can see how the Garcia Creek just runs all the way out to the mouth of Temecula Canyon right there. 1979, so look at that. Nice and clear, very green, very open. Here we go. 2002, population growth. Whoop. So population growth here. So this is Rancho California Road. This is the San Gabriel Mountains in the back. And so you can see things are starting to populate, but this is only 2002. So I'm going to talk about 4 categories of disasters: floods, fire, earthquake, and wind. So here we go. So this here shows, we're going to talk about floods, and the reason why I like to talk about disasters in terms of history is that disasters help form communities. They change communities, they also help the way communities are going to grow in the future. So this here shows the route of the California Southern Railroad. It goes from San Diego. It came up through, gosh, my eyes are so bad. It came up through Oceanside, Temecula Canyon. There's Temecula right there. It went on to Paris. And then went on to Bolton and then San Bernardino. Here's our
battery died again. Yeah, all these batteries are. Okay, how's that? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the Temecula train station. This is located, or was located, this is Main Street Bridge right here. So there's apartments here right now in Old Town Temecula. This is Temecula Canyon. We have a beautiful canyon that runs from here to the Pacific Ocean. Here's another view of it. Now you can see how low the tracks are compared to the Santa Margarita River. When Fred T. Paris, who was the engineer for the California Southern Railroad, came through here and was laying the tracks, everybody felt that the tracks were too low. He said, well, thanks for the info, but I'm the engineer around here, guys. Even though you've lived here all the while. Right? So here's another view. Look at this waterfall. Beautiful board. Here's one of the first trains coming through the canyon. Here's one of the first trains to stop in Temecula. Now, how do we know this train is for Temecula? You look right over here. That's the Hotel Temecula in the background. Right over there. So, first disaster, it actually didn't happen here. It happened on the other side of the world. August 27th, 1883, 3,000 miles away, the volcanic island of Krakatoa blew up. I mean, completely blew up. There's so much debris in the air that it affected the weather patterns over here. 36,000 people were killed there. It caused rain starting in January of 1884 up into July of 1884. So it rained that long because there was so much debris in the air. And so here's a picture of the washed-out track in the canyon. So in the end of January, it started to flood, it started to rain really intensely in Southern California and the Southwest Riverside County. Although I say Southwest Riverside County, at the time there was no Riverside County, so this is still part of San Diego County. On February 15th, 1884, one of the trains that came from San Diego actually got stuck in Temecula Canyon.
What's that little building there?
That's a overturned railroad car right there.
Oh.
Yeah. And so here's an article I found in one of the papers, the Daily Alpha, California. It was from San Francisco. It said a correspondent of the National City Record who made a trip to the scene of the repairs of the California Southern Railroad in Temecula Canyon gives it as his opinion that the road cannot be opened before February 1st, notwithstanding the fact that there are nearly 1,000 men now engaged upon the repairs, and most of those people were Chinese workers. Okay. And so he wasn't too far off, because actually, like I said, the train service started back again, or actually I didn't tell you yet, the train service started back again in January of 1885, so he wasn't very far off. Now, this is a great letter I got. A couple weekends ago, we gave a presentation to the Santa Rosa Plateau trail monitors here about the Vail Ranch and Vail history. And at that time, I got to meet Whitney Wilkinson, and he's the great-grandson of Walter Vail. And so he found out I was giving this presentation tonight, and so he sent me this letter. And this letter, if I could read it for you, says, Dear Malin, okay, it's addressed to Malin Vail, the son of Walter Vail, and it's February 26, 1917. It says, Dear Malin, I came across the enclosed Kodak a few days ago. I thought possibly it might be of interest to you.
Talk this way.
Okay. It might be of interest to you. This is the river as it was on November 1905, about a month after we had taken possession of the Paba, looking down the river toward the orchard. There was some water that year, believe me. Yours truly, H.L. Hefner. So what he's talking about here is this isn't the Murrieta Creek. This is actually Temecula Creek. But back in the day, there was so much water flow, it was actually known as Temecula River. Now, everybody knows the difference between a river and a creek, right?
One's bigger.
I'm glad you all know. Well, it actually has nothing to do with size.
Oh, okay. Then I don't.
It has to do with the one important thing about these things is the water. Okay? A creek is seasonal, so it only has water in it part of the year. And a river has water in it all year long. So if Murrieta Creek had water in it all year long, it would be Murrieta River. And so where this is Temecula Creek, and this is going to be just right past the Indian Cemetery up here about half a mile away. That's where the orchard was. So that's a great picture. I didn't even ask for this or anything. Brand new, nobody's ever seen this before. It came from the grandson of Walter, the great grandson of Walter Vail. Okay, another gentleman, we had floods around here all the time. And so in 1916, well, let me finish the one with the train. So in 1884, the tracks washed out, and they were rebuilt in January of 1885. Well, then what happened was they said, okay, that was a 100-year flood. We're not going to have another 100-year flood for what, 100 years, right? Well, in 1891, the tracks washed out again through the canyon. Okay? And so this time, when those tracks washed out, the line between Temecula and Fallbrook was abandoned. So they didn't rebuild those tracks. And so they said, okay, well, well, we can still take the train to Temecula, it's not too bad. And they could take a coach from Fallbrook to Temecula. Okay, it's just a small gap there. No more 100-year floods, right? 1891, 100 years, right? 1916, guess what happened?
Oh my gosh.
Another 100-year flood. Okay? Temecula Creek. Mr. F.L. Fernald of Temecula Riverside County reports that the flood of 1891 at Temecula Canyon rose to a height of about 2 feet on the trunk of a large oak tree on the bank at the ford. A neighbor who was with them said that the height was very close to the peak of the flood of 1884. This tree was washed out during the flood of January 1916, after the water had risen about 12 feet on the trunk. The canyon at this point is a solid rock and conditions will be the same for all floods. And lo and behold, once I found that article, this picture made sense. There's that tree right there. Okay. So when the 1916 flood came, the line between Fallbrook and the last stop before you hit Oceanside was down. So no more lines through Temecula Canyon. So literally, the train stopped and started right here in Temecula in 1916. Now that didn't last very long, because in 1935, with the advent of the road system and trucking and things like that, they decided to rip up the tracks. So the tracks from Temecula to Lake Elsinore were ripped up. And so there was no longer any more train service here. Picture of 1916 flood, Front Street. This right here we think is Fernald Garage, which would be about the place of the Frontier, two-story Frontier building on Front Street. It used to be a beautiful brown building. Now it's kind of a gray, building. I believe this to be the Paula Bridge. This is the one that's going over Temecula Creek toward the Pechanga Reservation. When they rebuilt it, they built a beautiful stone bridge. And I wish they would have kept it. Instead, what they did is they tore it down. Instead of keeping it as a pedestrian bridge, and they built the bridges there today. Like I said, there's been a lot of floods, documented floods, okay? March 1912, January 1916, March 1921, March 1927, March 1938, took out the bridge. Okay. We're talking about the main street bridge here.
It's the second largest month, yeah.
But the most familiar flood that all of us are that know about is the one that happened in 1993. I was here when that happened.
Me too.
Okay,
Me
so
too.
most people were here when that happened. So, January 16, 1993, almost 7 inches of rain in one day. Now, considering our annual rainfall here is about 4 inches, I think, our annual rainfall, that's a lot of rain. So, for a 2-week period, it rained almost 18 inches in Temecula. There was $25 million damage in Riverside County, $10 to $12 million between Temecula and Murrieta, $100 million damage in Camp Pendleton, and 500 people had to be rescued from the Old Town Temecula area. And so from beginning of January to the end of February, the storms in this area produced 20 to 40 inches of rain. 1993. So if somebody tells you that it never rains here, just shake your head. Just say, just wait. So here's one of the articles. This used to be a real estate office, kind of where Starbucks is on Front Street. Where the building is, as you enter in Old Town. Here's some of the headlines. Unfortunately, 6 people died. As it is when there's flooding in the areas where there's streets and stuff and people aren't used to that, they misjudge how deep the water and how fast the water is. They try to go across those ways. And unfortunately, it was a family that had a baby with them, and the baby was swept away by the rushing water.
Did the family live?
No, they're part of the
they're all
6
dying.
passed away.
It was an SUV that went into the...
So here's the rain gauge. It shows, it just shows all the rain we got. It shows Temecula got 4.25 in 24 hours total, and season to date is over 18 inches. And last year, the season to date was 4.22. So we got 14 more inches of rain than it normally does. Here's an aerial view of the Murrieta Creek running through Old Town. Now that right there, that's Rancho California Bridge right there, Rancho California Road Bridge. Here you go. Here's the Main Street Bridge right here. The Hotel Temecula. Right here is where the train station would have been. It's taken over by the apartments. Look where the water is. Literally. Again, another picture of that. I mean, it was totally demolished. They tore it down. This gentleman to show you. This is the buildings right there on 4th and Front Streets. Kind of next to the antique mall right around there. And he's showing you how high the water came up in the business. Some of the damage caused by the flooding after the water receded. These pictures were given to a friend of mine. She was living here, and she went down there right after the flood. She took some great pictures. So thankfully we have these. Here's the Front Street, looking south. This is Penny Pickles.
Oh.
You see the bank. This is the water after the water's gone down. Palomarian Hotel. The water was so deep on Front Street. You see the bottom ledge of that window there? That's how high the water went into the hotel. And unfortunately, this hotel's been open since 1927, and most of their hotel registers were in the back of the office on bottom shelves, and they were destroyed. So all this great history we could have had of all the people that came through town and stayed here, gone. Just to illustrate this, both of these were in the lobby. The piano no longer worked. They had to get rid of it. And right here, see the water stain?
Yeah.
That's how high the water came in there. Right there. What's the picture? Right there. That's how high it came into the hotel. Now, we have a brand new steel structure that was built in 2014, a beautiful one, 152 feet long. It resembles a railroad trestle that goes over rivers and things like that. But that wasn't until 2014, and now I'm the guy at the camera that when something happens, I show up, or I try to show up. Okay, if I'm not working. December 22nd, 2010, we were having some storms. I went down to the Main Street Bridge. Look what's happening. Look how high the water's at.
Yeah.
This is what it looks like when there is no water in it. Okay? Now, part of the problem of why there's always floods in Old Town is you can see this has pylons that go into the bottom of the creek bed. Well, when all this debris comes down the creek, guess what that acts as? A dam. So, now, like I said, I'm taking pictures. This is September 2015, right before they started to do the phase where they were cleaning out the creek and reinforcing it. They couldn't do it any earlier because the Murrieta Creek and Temecula Creek are part of the Santa Margarita River tributaries, and those are all managed by the Army Corps of Engineers, the federal government. And they had to do a study of all the waterways and tributaries in this area before they could even approach us. As a matter of fact, I was in the library last week going through that study trying to pull out some more information. It was completed in the year 2000. And it's like this thick with maps and everything, and I was like, whoop. So I took a couple pictures. Okay? And look at this, 2015. See how much silt's in the bottom of there? All the bushes, the small trees and everything. Now you got to remember, okay, the creeks, especially Murrieta Creek, is the lowest point in our valley. So whenever it rains, no matter wherever it rains, all the water's going to go down to that point. So where I live in Paloma del Sol, right where the TVHS is. That's 1,200 feet there. Water always runs downhill. During the heavy rains, before they widened Rancho California Road when it was 4 lanes, the right lanes were always taken out during the storm season because it was full of water. People couldn't drive their cars down there. All headed toward the creek. Santa Ana Mountains, all that water goes into the creek. From Murrieta, Santa Gertrudis Creek goes into Murrieta Creek. All the rain from Murrieta, Lake Elsinore, goes into Murrieta Creek. And it all heads our way, and it all kind of funnels through Old Town, heading out to the mouth of Temecula Canyon to meet up with the Santa Margarita and go out to the ocean. So that's 2015. So this is kind of their plan. This is what they had proposed. They were going to do it in phases. So you can see over here, this is kind of what existed, and they were going to widen and deepen it. But they're also going to have an area, a riparian area for wildlife and things like that. Okay, but I don't know how they could do that, or I don't know where this is at, because I think combined, this whole distance was 250 feet. And that's not how wide the creek goes through, at least through Old Town. It's not that wide. So, they started working on it. Here's a picture, September 21st, 2017. Like I said, I'm down there taking pictures, because you never know. You know, today's picture is tomorrow's history, right?
Right.
Okay? So, they're cleaning it out. Look how deep it is. They deepened that thing so much. You know, they reinforced it and everything, cleared it out. And it's a good thing they did, because the following spring, it rained, and it rained. We had like 3 or 4 good days of rain. I went down there to check this out, and I didn't take a picture. I don't know why, but the water was like right to there, like about 5 feet, 4 feet to the top of the new channel. That's how much water was there. This is taken yesterday. Okay, so this is the same view looking north. Look what's happening. The channel's starting to fill up with silt again. And look what's happening here. All these little bushes in here. And so they've actually come through and they've actually kind of bulldozed the channel right in the middle of the creek, so the water flow will be unimpeded when it goes through there. And that's looking north, okay? So that's looking through that's Rancho California Bridge right up there, okay? This is looking south, okay? That's the First Street Bridge right there. And beyond that, that goes over to the Temecula Canyon. But look at bushes and trees again. Look how much silt's in there. It's piling up, okay? So they're gonna have to mitigate that every year. Even though that they did all this reinforcement and everything, they're gonna have to constantly go in there and dredge this thing out. Otherwise, we're gonna be back to where we were. And so they did this in phases. They did a phase where I think phase 1 was from the mouth of Temecula Canyon up to the First Street Bridge right there. And then phase 2 was from the First Street Bridge through Old Town. But it didn't go all the way through Old Town. Okay? Or it didn't go all the way through Rancho California Road. I think it's supposed to go to Rancho California Road. But literally, it only went as far as where the arches are in Old Town. So if you go past that and you go Rancho California Road north, you're looking at what it used to look like in 2015 with bushes and trees and a bunch of silt and everything. You with me still?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's that building on the left there?
Okay, so
The red building?
this is on the city's website. This is a 100-year flood zone designation, so this is the part right in here. All this, I guess it's pink on here, okay? But they also, besides having rivers and creeks and streams, what else do we have? Quite a few here, in actually South Riverside County. It involves water.
Aquifers?
Dams.
Dams.
We got a lot of dams. So here you go, dam hazard zone designation. So this basically shows you who's going to be in a
Compromised.
problem if the dam ever goes.
Earthquake.
Okay? So like, what do we got here? Bell Lake? Look at all this area that's going to be impacted. Up here is Lake Skinner. Look at all this area right there. Okay, up here is Diamond Valley Lake. Look at all this area right here. Okay, up here, Lake Elsinore, right? Look at all the areas going to be impacted there. All those homes that are in the end of that dry basin in Lake Elsinore,
I remember when they built those and they were worried about them.
I couldn't believe it. I said, I mean, the shore was there, right? And all of a sudden you start seeing building stuff in that place. I go, wait a second.
What?
There's a reason why it's flat,
Yes.
okay? Because that's where the water collected. And then, whoops, sorry about that. And then up here, guess where this water is coming from? By Menifee. The Paris Dam. We got Paris Lake up there. So, literally, this whole area that goes through that small canyon there is surrounded by dams. Temecula is. So go home and get your GPS. It's 938 feet at the bridge, okay, where the creek is, Temecula Creek in Old Town. Go home and get your GPS, or not your GPS, your altimeter, and find out what the elevation of your home is. If you're higher than 938 feet, you're way higher, you're good to go, okay? Water's gonna go away from you, right? I'm the disaster, right?
Pretty safe.
I'm going to go.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
so-
pretty safe.
Grab my camera. Monsoon rains. a month ago, I have a spot that I don't have to go too far to, and it's beautiful. How do you know this is a monsoon rain, not a regular rain? This is a characteristic of monsoon rains. They just come down in one area, very heavy, but then it's clear around it. You see how all the rain funnels in that one area just kind of comes down? This is how it is in Arizona and New Mexico. That's why I love going out there when I go camping and stuff, because you can just see this all the time. I mean, you look at the horizon, see all these clouds, monsoon, clear, monsoon, clear, monsoon. It's really beautiful. And the thing about monsoon rains that are probably more dangerous than regular rainfall is this: lightning. Okay, lightning for us out here is very dangerous. It's not going to hit anybody. Well, I shouldn't say that. There was going to be a picture I was going to add to this of a truck that got hit in Arizona, but I didn't want to show it to you, so I'm going to make it even get word.
So you tell us about it instead.
He couldn't resist.
Okay, well, yeah, they get a lot of rain, a lot of lightning there. And this guy had a license plate, has a license plate on his dash.
Oh.
So somehow the lightning found it on his dash, and it went through the windshield and it went right through the dash.
Gosh.
I know, freaky, huh?
That would be wake up call.
So I'm not putting my license plate on a dash. I don't care what happens.
Metal water bottle.
But this is some of the lightning
One
they
of the
took.
doors and
Okay.
have the air coming in.
You see this? And now here's what's really interesting. See this area over here? And if you went further over here, there was no rain. Actually, there was rain. There was rain that's called virga. What it is, it's rain. You can actually see it come out of the clouds, but it evaporates before it gets to the ground. That's the bad one, okay? Because at least here, when it's raining right here, the ground's getting wet, right? So when the lightning hits the ground, there's not a good chance it's going to spark anything because all the vegetation's wet, everything else. The virga rain, lightning's still happening, and lightning's hitting the ground, but underneath it, all that vegetation is dry. Okay, so that's why we get so many lightning strikes and causing fires here. Another picture, see lightning right there?
Yeah.
Julie is cold.
Look at that one.
I don't
It
know
actually
if
better
you can turn
not on
it
the
down
projector
a
on the
little.
computer and stuff.
It's just
And I wasn't worried about that because that's probably
see the
about
top things if you go along
5 miles away, 4 or 5 miles away. I think, I don't know.
Yeah, how could you tell?
The hair on my arms wasn't standing up. So. But I've been in lightning before.
Oh.
The storm was coming on top of the mountain when I was in Boy Scouts,
Yeah.
and we were on top of the mountain in Mexico. We could see the storm off in the distance, and the hair on our body started to stand up.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's when the scoutmaster said, okay, we gotta get down, we gotta get down fast.
That's good.
There's static electricity in the air.
I thought that'd be good. You know, living in
Now,
Chicago.
this is to show you kind of some of the verbiage. It doesn't really show that well, so. This here, same spot. I went out there Friday during the thunderstorms we had, right? Now, the lightning here wasn't the kind you saw before. The cloud formation, there was more clouds, there was more rain we got, and also had the sheet lightning. So the sheet lightning is the lightning that you see that goes, but it kind of goes within the clouds. It doesn't go down to the ground.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I saw 10 lightning strikes Friday.
You did?
I was out
So,
and
but
about.
here
and
it
I saw
comes.
10.
Here comes the lightning. And this is important because I'm going to talk about something else here too that lightning's going to have an impact on. Fire.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about floods, right, and rain. Let's get into fire, okay? So, I'm fortunate when I give these tours, I meet all sorts of great people. A lot of people that retired, used to work,
Yeah.
different jobs. I met a gentleman that worked for CDF for the longest time. And we just, we got into the tour, we just started talking and stuff. And I gave him my email address and he just started feeding me stuff. I'm like, oh my God, so much stuff I didn't know about. 1940 CDF fire stations. Okay, so this is a list of fire stations kind of in the area in 1940. So let's see, okay, in Paris, Corona, Elsinore, San Jacinto, Beaumont, Sage, Temecula, and Anniston. That's all the fire stations that were around here. Okay? 1940. This is a fire truck, modern fire truck. A modern firefighter right there. Ready to fight a fire, ready to go out with a dry grass with a cigarette in his hand. Yeah, there you go. I don't know where he hooked that hose up to. I don't know how they got water. Okay. Okay, here you go. There's a whole fleet of fire trucks. Okay? Now just imagine, this is their resources trying to fight fires. And you will see these modern fires, hundreds of people. You know, water tenders, fire trucks, you know, flash check planes, helicopter drawing water. I mean, just the resources now today to fight a fire. And this is what they were fighting fires with. This is like the whole thing. No airplanes or anything. This is what they were doing. Gotta give you credit. More modern equipment. Still, this is kind of like from the 60s right here. Okay. Like I said, this gentleman gave me so much information about it. Okay, this is our current fire station.
Yeah.
One of them. I was going to give you a map and list how many fire stations we have in Temecula. We don't have that many. Okay, probably like a handful.
That's one in Old Town.
This is one in Old Town. State engine number 12.
Yeah.
The first original fire department here. And I think it came like I can't remember when it was there, but that was the Coleman Fire Department. Here's some articles. December 8, 1911. A fire which had been burning fast for several days in the Temecula Canyon was swept by Tuesday's high winds over many acres of timber in the Santa Rosa Range. For a time, the fire threatened the ranch house and the Swaggin Ranch, but was finally set. December 8. July 31st, 1914. Forest fires raged south of Temecula. Forest raged busy. Few fires were started in one day south of Temecula. Hundreds of acres were burned over destroying trees and beef food. This is the time of year when the forest rangers are kept on the jump, and it is impossible for them to prevent great damages every year. It results without carelessness of campers and others who travel the public highways. However, it is a very fortunate thing that most of the fires originate on the public roads, making it easy to reach them before they have gained indiscernible headway. It has spread over several hundred acres of brush lands, making for the flats, where great damage would have been done had the forest rangers not reached the scene in time. Some careless person has set the fire, and no trace of the party can be found. And when he talks about careless person, you know, back in the day, smoking was common. Everybody smoked. And when you're done with your cigarette, what do you do when you're in the car? Look it out the window, right? Not unlike today. So we had a big fire right in town in 1952. The Temecula lumber yard burned down. So the Temecula lumber yard would have been where the Stampede is today in Old Town. Okay. And so these are pictures that the museum had that I don't think anybody's ever seen. So the first thing I did, from time to time I go to the museum, I take my handheld scanner, I'm going, we gotta let people know this information. You can't keep it in a book on a shelf, right? Look at this. Firefighters can do anything other than keep it from spreading to other buildings. Just had to watch it burn down. I met Carl Watson. As a matter of fact, I talked to him last Sunday at the History Center. He was the son of the last manager of the Temecula lumber yard. And I think he was 8 or 9 years old when this happened. He was living on Pool Street at what was known as the Freedman House. And he said he thinks how the fire started is they had parked the truck on the side and they had cans of turpentine in the back of the truck, and you know there was some rags and things like that. And he thinks that the floorboard was so hot that it caught the rags on fire, which burned the truck and went to the building. Okay, so that was never rebuilt. He said him and his dad, they ended up moving to Alderwald, I think, to work in the lumber yard there. But here's the damage.
But the Stampede was a hardware store, a lumber yard, before it was a Stampede.
Yeah, but that was probably one that was rebuilt after this date right here, 52.
Right.
This is 52.
Right. So it was rebuilt.
But not anytime soon after this time.
Got it.
Now, it's a great, I'm glad he told me a date because I found this picture and I couldn't date it, but now I can because look what's left over right here. That's where the lumber yard was, and that's what it remained of. This is Old Town Temecula. This is looking north. On Front Street, this is Main Street. There's the Wealthy Building, the bank, 1909 building. There's the Burbs. Okay. Here's Swing In Cafe, here's Swing In Cafe and a Swing In Motel.
Oh, there was a motel?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either until I saw this picture. I started looking at it.
When it was demolished?
Yep. Most of these buildings are wood.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so they don't last the test of time. Okay. 1968 wildfire just on the mountains just west of Cool Street. Look how close it is. Okay, you see the bank in the foreground? Recent area Temecula fires. Okay, so I went through and picked out some of the largest fires. I only had to go back to 1987. Now, one of the things in looking at this I wanted to point out, and this is going to talk about another thing we're going to talk about, is we haven't got our Santa Anas yet. October's our Santa Ana month.
That's
Okay.
supposed to be the worst.
Look right
time,
here.
It's October.
Look. Let me show you that.
Man.
Look right here. October 26, 31st, 1993. Here, Winchester in French Valley, 25,000 acres. October 21st, 27th, 2003, 7,000 acres, southwest of Duluth. Here's a mountain fire, October 26th and 30th, almost 10,000 acres, northeast of Temecula. Okay? So you see a lot of August and September, August, October, August, October, August, August. All right? So we're not out of the fire season yet. As a matter of fact, when the Santa Anas come, it's going to be our worst time. And especially this time of year, because everything is so dry, you know, I'm hoping that we can escape what's been happening in Northern California for the last 3 or 4 years. You know, it's just really sad. And the last fire we had was the Chaparral fire. That's a big one, 1,500 acres. Luckily for us, this was more west on the border between Riverside and San Diego counties. But you could see it. I came to Old Town, I went, what the heck? You see the smoke go straight up. When it hit the air curves, it went straight towards Elsinore or Wildomar. Okay, it went up, made like an L shape and went right that way. Then, okay, keep on hitting the wrong place. Then, you know, just a few weeks ago we had the Rupa Fire, which is right behind Paula, off of Paula Road, right where the casino is, okay? And there's a small canyon there. There was so much smoke in the air, I thought it was for sure a bigger fire. As a matter of fact, when you were watching it on Facebook, because I watched all the fire departments and everything, Cal Fire, they said it was about 100 acres. When everything was dead in sun, it only turned out to be 54 acres, thank God. There was no wind. If there had been a wind and it had been bloated up that canyon, it would have started taking out the whole back there, that back way to Paula. But here's one that I know that Mac is very familiar with. That's Naha Fire. In September 4th, the 14th, 2019, 2,000 acres, Murrieta and the Santa Rosa
Oh, I
Plateau.
remember that.
Oh, yeah.
You probably do it wherever you live.
So here's the mountain fire, October 26th to 30th, 2003. Okay, 21 houses, mobile homes, and travel trailers were destroyed. Okay. Still part of it. Look at that. That's crazy. That's just kind of like out in wine country. Eagle Fire. This one destroyed much of the Dorland Artist Colony.
I remember
Okay,
that.
remember
too.
that?
Yeah.
9,000 acres. This is from the front of my house. I went out in my front yard. I'm like, oh my God, look at that. Yeah. 14 homes destroyed. The 27 other structures destroyed. They really talked about the Dorland Mountain Artist Colony. 1,200 firefighters were battling it. The Woodchuck campground was evacuated. Dell Lake Resort was evacuated.
Face this way when you're talking.
Look at that. Look how close it is.
Oh.
This was interesting because I saw this from my house, and this is before Temecula had really, you know, grown out that way towards like the Vale and Red Hawk area and everything. This is that ridge right up there, and at night you can just see the flames on the ridge. It's just unbelievable, you know. And then the next day, I was looking through binoculars. That's a fire, okay. And there was a house up there. And the fire department had saved the house. Everything around it was burnt.
Oh my.
And then about a couple of hundred yards down the driveway going to the house was a full semi-trailer that had been saved as well. They had abandoned it and it was just sitting there on the road, but everything around it was burnt completely. It had been saved. Look at that.
Yeah.
Paula Fire, 2,400 acres. Okay, kind of in the same area we were talking about just now. Look how much smoke that throws up. It's only 200 acres. The Buck Fire, 2,700 acres near Guanga, lightning caused. Everybody's talking about, the burger rain and lightning caused. There's no water coming to the ground. 2014, this showed all the fires that are happening in that area in that year. It's unbelievable. And just to give you an idea, I found this online as a satellite view, where they can actually see the smoke from the fires in the satellite. And that's what's circled over here. Sorry, this is a new clicker for me, so I'm getting used to it. So you can see the smoke from the fires. You see Temecula, I marked it right here for you. You can see how close you're relative to that.
Dale, you need to face this way.
Oh, sorry. This was June of 2016, called Temecula Fire, about 140 acres, right along the 15. Literally, so guess what caused this?
Cigarette.
See it there, right there? See it? Let's see what's in that smoke.
Yeah.
There you go, propane tanks. How about that, right? There's a propane facility right there. That's what they had to prevent it from getting to. Look at that. And a rocky terrain. So the poor firefighters have to climb up that to get to that, to help put that out and suppress it. Luckily they had water dropping helicopters. Now this is the Tanaha fire. This did considerable damage.
Terrible.
San Fernando Earthquake. Almost 2,000 acres burned, 1,200 people were evacuated. Some of those 2 of those 1,200 people were the parents of my future son-in-law. He's not my son-in-law, but at that time was future son-in-law. And so they came over to our house. They had to leave their home. 2 structures were damaged, 3 injuries, non-fatal. Causes believed to be lightning. Max shaking his head.
Oh, no, that
Yeah,
guy. I thought
yeah.
they had that guy.
Yeah. So it started the evening around 5 p.m. We went from 5 acres to 1,000 acres in 5 hours. So that happens because the brush is dry and there's wind. Okay, wind-driven fires will explode. Much of the damage occurred to the Santa Rosa Plateau and the Sylvan Meadows multi-use area.
Did they know if any? I'm sure some animals died. Did they know how many?
Oh, no.
They can tell.
I'm sure there's a lot of animals died. But this is the site on the visitor center, on the road.
Yeah.
Tanaha Road.
Yep.
The gate to the visitor center. And this has all since been repaired. The pavilion back behind the visitor center. Look at that.
So many
Like a
oak
moon
trees
ski.
burned down.
Trail there,
Yes,
see?
Oh,
Look at that. That doesn't look like here. That looks like the moon, right?
Looks like snow.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is what's really interesting here. I actually found this on old footage from the KTLF5 newscopter that was in the area. Now what's very, very interesting is this arrow's pointing to the visitor center. They saved the visitor center.
Yeah.
And the house is there, right next to it. Everything around it was destroyed. But see what the fire department did when they were protecting the property? They dropped frost check on the trail, the existing trail. There's already a 5-foot trail there, cleared vegetation, and they used that to. Up here, there's another trail. I think it's this water line, probably up there. But he did the same thing. See how it stops right there? So they used the existing trails to their advantage to help stop the spread of the fire.
The bridge was burnt down though. That's why it was closed.
Now,
for so
this
long.
shows it going into
All of the
shows going
bridges
into
are
Copper Canyon
quite
towards the Bear Creek subdivision where my now son-in-law's parents lived, and they were evacuated from that area. That would have been like right up in here.
Good thing you were.
And then I just took the map to kind of show you the burn area now. So this is kind of here, goes across the road up to here. This is all closed off, obviously, so people can't get to it. And so, you know, a combination of that fire, a combination of COVID, a combination of, you know, can't get volunteers because of certain requirements for COVID, a combination of the heat has kept this place closed for the most part, except Sylvan Meadows. They opened up Sylvan Meadows probably about a year ago, maybe. and they tried opening up the trail just to the adobes and stuff. But they had to close it because of heat and things like that. So they're trying to do that, but this is an ecological reserve. So there's strict requirements on what you have to do in order to open it up. So, but look at this, look at the fire. This is in a neighborhood. People had to evacuate. Can you imagine evacuating in the middle of the night?
That's scary.
So this is the Chaparral fire I was talking about. See how it went straight up? And just the wind blew it out towards Wildomar, Elsinore? It's 1,500 acres, 2 structures were burned. Oh, wrong way. I think that's one of the structures there. This is taken, there was concern because they thought it was close to the plateau again. This is taken by the plateau. This is via volcano right there, kind of going out. You turn here to go out towards the trailhead for the vernal pools. You can see how far away it is still. So that was actually kind of a route. This is from the parking lot in the visitor center of the plateau. Okay, floods, fires, now it's earthquakes, right? Hey. So this is me, and I'm fascinated by earthquakes. More because I had the experience when I was 18. So this right here, guess what that is in the back, that line right there? San Andreas Fault. That's where I'm going as soon as I can get out of COVID. I gotta go check that. So I'm standing on the North American plate, on the other side of that fault, the Pacific plate. And supposedly when I go to that fault, if I can find a recent rupture, the stone on the left side, the Pacific plate, is going to be kind of grayish, and the stone on the right side, on the North American plate, should be kind of brown. So I want to kind of prove that, okay? A lot of faults around here. There's us right there, right in the middle of all of it. Big historical earthquakes from 1769 to 1899. These are estimated. Now, a lot of times, the way they estimate these really old earthquakes, obviously we didn't have Caltech or seismographs and things like that. They do trenching. So they actually dig out a fault, and they go down, and by measuring and looking at the layer and the way the ground shifted, they can kind of estimate the size of earthquakes. 1899 earthquake happened on the San Jacinto Fault. This is damage to one of the unreinforced brick buildings here. The San Jacinto Post Office. Again, it's brick and masonry. San Jacinto earthquake happened on December 25th, 1899. 4 o'clock in the morning. So probably before most people were up. It was 10 miles southeast of San Jacinto. The magnitude was estimated at 6.5. The fault involved is the San Jacinto fault. This felt San Diego, Needles, and Seligman, Arizona. 30 aftershocks the same day. 6 people were killed. It was hardest hit was in San Jacinto and Hemet. All brick buildings were damaged or destroyed. There you go. The front of the house looks great, right? Go to the backyard. It's gone. Back of the building's gone. Now somebody said this might have been the Machado adobe, but I'm not sure if that's true or not. Talk about how losses are piling up every hour. It says, they built a new county hospital last year. It costed $10,000 totally direct. Total damage. 1918 had another earthquake. Okay, just 19 years later, near the town of San Jacinto, 6.8 estimated. Again, the San Jacinto Fault. Huge damage in Hemet National Bank. This is a mile north of San Jacinto. This is part of a road. Oh, I had the post office here twice. Okay. San Jacinto Fault. Where is that in relation to us? Well, if you I'll speed this up. So, if you go east of here, it's going to be west of the San Andreas Fault. It's going to be in the area of San Jacinto and Hemet, and it runs north to south as part of the mountains. You can see we always have earthquakes there. If you ever see in the news about when we have an earthquake like 3.4 or 4, something like that, and it says, so many miles northeast of Anza, San Jacinto Fault. Okay? And so here's what I took, just like in 2013, I just happened to get out. I monitor earthquakes now on my phone. And so you can see, here's Temecula, and that's where the earthquake happened, so it's not that far from us. This is just something on the USGS site. They ask people to call in and to rate how much they felt, and that way they can determine, the fault location, the shaking, and everything else for planning purposes. Again, here's another one here that shows the stars us. The stars going to be us. Secondary faults. This is the one for that 4-point fault I showed you earlier. The secondary faults within 3.5 minutes of the initial earthquake. So we have a lot of faults around here. So if a large earthquake happens on one fault, it actually reduces or adds stress to the adjacent fault. And sometimes that triggers a earthquake on that fault too. And the size here, where that arrow is pointing, that's Temecula. Pretty much. Oh no, that's not. That's the earthquake, but I'm sorry. I don't want to scare you again. Here's Temecula right here. Okay. That's the initial earthquake right there. 2016 Valley earthquake. See where the earthquake happened up here. Right down here is Temecula. That one's more along the San Andreas fault. Another one. Okay, this is going to be more along the San Jacinto fault. That red line is the San Andreas fault. That was 2016. The blue dot's us. Again, the shaking. Another earthquake 2017. So I mean, they were right there, folks. You see how close it is.
There was one.
This is the San Andreas Fault. This is up in Central California on this the Garcia Plain. It's the best defined, view of the fault. Okay, Pacific Tectonic Plate on the left, North American Plate on the right. Pacific Plate's going north, North American Plate's coming south. Well, actually, yeah. Yes. So eventually, LA and San Francisco will be right across from each other.
We probably won't be around to see that.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that
This is
oceanfront
what-
property.
This is what they're looking for when they do trenching and stuff. This happens to be a cut for the road. You can just see how the ground folds and everything caused by the earthquakes. On the average, earthquakes occur on the San Andreas Fault about every 150 years. 1906, San Francisco. 1857, this is up in the Cajon Pass. Okay, last big one we had on the southern section, 1680. Oops, we're overdue, folks. Okay. Parkfield's the place where they're doing studying. It's right out on San Andreas Fault, Central California. So USGS there, sensors on the ground. I have all this information because my son and I went there. I said, let's go look for an earthquake fault. He said, okay, Dad. So we're there. San Andreas Fault. This bridge has been destroyed so many times, rebuilt so many times because it goes right on the fault. I'm standing right on the fault at that time. My son's going, wouldn't it be cool if there had an earthquake right now?
Only a kid would say that.
There's the fault right there. There's sensors in the ground because they're trying to measure movement. They're trying to figure out a way
To predict.
to predict earthquakes enough to where they can allow some warning. Okay. They're not going to be able to predict the size and stuff, but they want to give, minutes warning so that people can prepare themselves and seek safety and shelter and stuff before it actually happens. You measure the intensity of the earthquake on the Richter scale. It's basically by destruction, believe it or not. Then we have two different kind of earthquake waves. We have P and S. The P waves are the first to arrive, and the S waves are secondary. So if you hit the P wave, is going to be like a jolt, right? And then after, it's going to be kind of that rolling thing. Okay, the closer the P wave and the S waves are together, the closer the earthquake is to you. 1971 San Fernando Earthquake. Southern California wasn't really prepared for earthquakes, especially in their engineering. These are flyover and overpass supports. They just gave way. Same thing happened in 1994, Morpheus earthquake. Since that time, they've been retrofitting these. They actually retrofitted overpasses on Interstate 10 and Highway 91 by San Bernardino, right outside my office where I was working in San Bernardino. I saw them do this. So if you ever go by an overpass and you see kind of the steel collar around it, it's concrete but it has a steel collar, that's been a retrofitted. This is a new graphic. Yeah. duck cover and hold on. It's always been the thing, but now they added something new. Cover your neck. As soon as you drop, cover your neck. That's the big thing, because a lot of people are suffering head trauma during an earthquake, not because of buildings falling down, it's because all the stuff we have in our homes, falling off walls and things like that. Look at this is just an example of the 1994 earthquake. See, everything that's in the kitchen, in those cabinets, came out flying. And I saw this picture, and I had child safety locks on every drawer in the kitchen and in the house. And after a while, my wife, they made me take them off. You know? But it's just a simple one. You just push it, you know, open it up. You just need something to prevent that from opening up and everything flying out. That's all it takes. Look at that. Just amazing. It's a garage. Some people had said that, you know, their microwaves flew off their counters, their stove, or their refrigerator came from a wall and like walked across the floor. This is a child's room. Look at how close to 1971 and 1994 were. And the big thing they were worried about at that time, look where the LA Dam is. So this is the 1971 earthquake. San Fernando Earthquake, 6.5 magnitude, 65 people killed, 2,000 injured. Most of the deaths at the Veterans Administration Hospital. There's a very old building, masonry building in San Fernando Valley.
Oh, that's sad.
This earthquake caused California to wake up and enact some seismic safety standards we never had before. One of the things was that any new building, the house had to be attached to the foundation now. It had to be bolted to the foundation. Most construction, especially in Old Town, you know, they're building buildings all the time. You look at some of the old pictures, they're just up on wood, you know, high enough from the street so that the mud wouldn't get into their business when it rained and stuff. The other thing is, you couldn't build within 50 feet of a known fault. So if I'm a fault, then you can't build 50 feet on that side or 50 feet on that side. You have about 100 feet. But if you look at some of the old maps of San Andreas, especially where it goes up through Marin County, out into the ocean, it's going right under people's homes and subdivisions. Literally, people are building right on top of it. Okay. Now, if you drive around Temecula, and you see these kind of weird strips of land there's parks at that are really long and kind of narrow, guess what I'm guessing those are? Just saying.
That's true. I know somebody who has a house that next door is just vacant land, and he said that's because that's an earthquake.
Yep, that's exactly that. So I hope he's earthquake-proofed his house. San Fernando Earthquake, there's the Veterans Hospital we're talking about. Look at this is a home. You know, they had to start thinking about dam construction. This is the pole. This is the San Fernando Dam, and they actually built the Sepulveda Basin as a result of this for all the runoff in case the dam would go over. Well, look how close it came to being breached due to the earthquake. Now this one here is, I think, this is 1994. Look at the freeways. Northridge. 6.7, 4.31. Epicenter was in Reseda, San Fernando Valley. Generated by an unknown fault. We only know the existence of a fault if the fault breaks the surface of the ground. Then we know it exists. But right now, there's probably faults everywhere that we don't know about until it flies. So, 72 deaths, 8,700 reported injuries, 20,000 people are homeless. 670,000 residents in LA were without water. Another 180,000 people in LA had reduced pressure. $25 billion estimated damage cost. Damage occurred up to 85 miles away. Okay. To prepare yourself for an earthquake, this is for any disaster. Water, have water on hand, okay? If a water main breaks, you're not going to have any water pressure, you're not going to have any water. You need water, right? And I'm not speaking for everybody, but I'm the age now where I have to have my medication. Okay? I take medication daily. I keep 3 months on hand. Okay? because everything's electronic today. Power goes out, systems go down. They can't fulfill prescriptions. They don't have any records. Okay, they can't open businesses. People go, well, I don't have any electricity. Well, I'm going to use gas. I'm going to go to a gas station, use gas to run my generator. Gas stations won't run without electricity. The pumps won't run. So now I keep a solar panel. I have a 100-watt foldable solar panel on a mini power station in my house. I use it for camping, but I use it also for emergency stuff too. So you got to think about these things.
I remember this. This was Martin Luther King weekend, because and it was a Monday, and I think it was like a little bit less impactful because it wasn't a work day the next day.
Oh, that's a good point. That's actually a very good point. Yeah. And I remember this because I was living in Temecula at the time, but we hadn't bought a home, I don't think yet. Or maybe we had on this one. I just know that this was the earthquake that caused us, first time ever, to get under the kitchen table with my wife and my kids. Oh no, this wasn't the one. I'll show you
Oh
the
yeah,
one
that
now.
was my that was the day I moved here.
So you can see, right here,
Oh my gosh.
a poor officer responding who lived out of the area was driving in the dark and was coming to help, and he went off the edge. Gas mains broke. You have fires everywhere. Water mains broke. You have floods everywhere. I'm not here to scare you. I'm just trying to prepare you mentally for what you need to do. I mean, we only have like 5 or 6 fire stations in town, right? And something disastrous happens, they're going to go to places like hospitals and schools and stuff like that.
Gas lines.
So you're on your own. I don't want to, you need to be resilient about this. Buildings that have those drop-down ceilings, those tiles and stuff in it, the white ceiling and stuff, they're just held together, just held up by those light fixtures. Look at that. Classroom. Like I said, good thing it was a holiday. No kids in there. Right? If it had been a holiday, it'd been very different. That's my house. I wanted to show you what this is a requirement now, where the frame of the building has to be bolted to the foundation. I had to clean up a little bit to show you that. Okay. This is what happens when the frame of the building is not attached to the foundation. It just slides off the foundation. Doesn't have to move very far. But this is what happens. These are older homes.
Oh, they're so beautiful.
And it totally destroys the home. You can't recover it. Now this one wasn't too bad, but look at it, knocked off. This is a modern home. You can see it's not too bad, but still got some structural damage. This is that apartment complex in Northridge. Had the underground parking, and it pancaked on top of it. The Kaiser Permanente Hospital. That's that apartment complex. Look where the cars are. See how flat they are? This is the street. Whittier earthquake, 1987. And we're going to talk about that. And this is the one I was talking about earlier. This is the one I thought was the big one.
Me
The
too.
Landers earthquake, 7.5, happened out in the desert in 1992. It happened at 4:57 in the morning. So I was in an apartment in Redlands on the couch watching TV about what's going on. I was holding one of my sons. While I'm watching TV, and I'm right by the front door, the second one hit at 8:05. Okay, at Big Bear. I was out the door in 2 seconds, maybe a second. And yelling for my wife to run, which I shouldn't have done. She ran out my other son. I got outside so fast. Our apartment complex was 2 apartments on top of 2, and the fronts all faced, and it was the door, and then it was a sliding glass door for each front, and the glass on each one was vibrating like this. I literally thought it was gonna go pop, 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 pop. Very long driveway. You can see all the way down. Covered parking this way, parking in here. See a very long driveway. I'm out there. The cars are bouncing up and down like this. Okay, and I've seen the ground doing this wave stuff.
If you're reading my mind, I was going to say that's the first time ever. I'd always heard of, what's a wavy one? What's one that feels like that? A rolling one? And I was like, whoa, this is a rolling one. I can tell now.
I could see it. I could see the ground. That was the worst. That
Right there at the base of the hill.
kind of right where they come down right there. That's where Redlands is, just right to the right of San Bernardino, literally. And as the crow flies, it's, not 15, 20 miles, something like that, San Bernardino. I thought that was the big one.
Yeah.
That, to me,
You were
felt
gonna
like
try
the
to
big one.
go
We were
close.
having continual aftershocks.
I think it's the fan,
Our
isn't it?
anxiety of everybody
You
that
turned
lived in
the-
that area was so
Oh,
high
did
for
you?
so long.
Should I close it?
Yeah, set up.
So this is
What
the
do you
average
think?
earthquake.